And good to have you with us here. A special edition of Dave Petzo with us. Dave Petzo with us today. Good to have you back. I was a little worried. You know, the stocks took a little hit. We couldn't find you.
I know. I was hunkered down in the SeaTac airport. Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Here I thought you were in the Petzo Center. You were running the numbers.
Yeah.
Tough day yesterday.
Yeah, it was a really tough day yesterday, no doubt. I just got in too late, so thank you for your understanding as my plane was delayed.
Sure.
But I was here yesterday and got to see the carnage.
Well,
it was a tough day. It really was, all the way around. Everything was, especially the big winners this year, right? The Apples, the Googles, they're all down 5%. It was a big hit. So it was all the way around.
Well, let's take a look at the cause of that. Is it this China thing, the China war, China halting purchases of U.S. farm products, the devaluing of the yuan, not to be confused with the yen, that I always mix them up, but very important information today.
It is. I'll tell you, Kevin, it is a combination of all of the above, but I think it's important for us to understand that the market has 80% of the market is being driven by machine trading. Excuse me. So when you have machines that have algorithms, unless you're in there writing them, you don't know what they're set to. But I do know this. They all trade on momentum. And so when stocks move in a certain direction for whatever reason, then they pile on. And the sell orders come in. And the reason that you saw the Googles and the Apples take such a hit yesterday is they are the biggest components of all the ETFs, exchange-traded funds. They're the biggest component for the indices, all that. So when these machines say sell, and they sell millions of shares of ETFs, exchange-traded funds, they sell millions of shares, that means, in particularly, the big boys get hit. And that's exactly what it looked like yesterday. Whether we had a chain, so obviously it's set to trade, it's set for momentum, and whatever else is in there, they all were selling down, and they piled on, and it really knocked the market down 700 points.
Sure. The world's richest lose $117 billion in the one-day market, as they're calling it, the market meltdown. How does that work, where you lose like $1 billion here, you gain $1 billion? I mean, you hang out with these people.
Yeah. Well, guess what? Guess who those rich are? Us. All of us. We own stocks in our 401k. It's part of our retirement plan. Everybody owns stocks. And so it's not just the richest. And the bottom line is, when people talk about this, it's just babble, to be very frank. Here I am babbling about the market, so I don't get to have a job if everybody quits babbling. But the reality is a day down is a day down. Does that mean we have had $500 billion since the beginning of the year? Yeah, I guess it does, because I can quickly do the math. We're down a couple percent yesterday. That's $100 billion. We're up. What are we up now? 13% year to date. So 6 times that number, 5 times. You know what I'm saying? It's $500 billion plus. But we don't report every day, hey, everybody made collectively $1 billion, $2 billion, 10. But when the market goes down, somebody has to put a number to it and make a headline out of it. And unless you sold yesterday, you didn't lose anything from the day before, nor did the day before did you gain anything. The reality is, most people own stocks. They don't trade them. They're not computers. And they own the greatest corporations in the world. And the best thing you could have done for the past 10 years is to own Apple, not trade it, because you wouldn't own it. You would have gotten out, because the iPhone sales, or iPhone 4 didn't come out as good as it was. iPhone 5 had some glitches. iPhone 6, didn't have the lines that you had. And it goes on and on why you should get out. Google didn't announce the great earnings, so on and so forth. These companies are all up, multiples, 10x where they were 10, 15 years ago.
But let's get back to where we are today. You're a little shaken there, Dave Petzo. This has been a while. We've had one of these days.
To have a 2%, 3%, excuse me. Don't want to exaggerate.
But the danger we have for the folks in Idaho, you love Idaho. I would consider you one of the great ambassadors of this state. But you have farmers. And now we're hearing that the Chinese, they're being bad Chinese. They're mad. The Chinese are mad. They've devalued the yuan, not to be confused with the yen, as we covered before on KIDO Talk Radio.
Yep.
But now and we'll get to the manipulation of the currency, but They're saying they're not going to buy food from us. We have 2 or 3 offices in China. The state of Idaho does. It's one of our largest trading partners.
Yep.
So how will this impact, if at all, farmers in Idaho, farmers across the country? Because your favorite people, the media, are saying one thing, but let's get the real news, the real truth from Dave Petzo.
Sure. Commodities are commodities, and it doesn't matter where they come from. Prices are set by the availability globally. You can decide that we are going to leave out, if you will, Iranian oil as an embargo. That's a big deal to them. That's all they have to export. It's a very big deal. And so they have to try to undercut it, black market it, all those things, which is, again, friction cost to them. It makes it very difficult to operate. The Chinese not buying soybeans just means soybean prices elsewhere are sky high, and they can't feed their people. Same thing with corn or anything else. It's a commodity, and we weren't transporting it there for them to dump it in the ocean. They were eating it. So where are they going to get all of this wheat and corn? I think it's a real problem for them, and I think it's a little bit of BS, but it is hurting the soybean farmers. So what the United States has done is said, okay, it's hurting them. So here's billions of dollars that we don't want the farmers to be taking the hit. So I think it's the same thing that has been happening, and that is that here and there within ag particularly is taking a hit. I think farmers completely understand and still support what Trump's doing, and that is to put and bring the Chinese into the 21st century.
Well, the Chinese don't want to be brought into the 21st century.
They do not. But if you're going to play here, and the United States is the big dog, and they finally have a new sheriff in town that is unwilling to just let them roll over the top. So I think that we'll see what happens diplomatically globally, but so far I believe that the United States is winning.
Dave Petzo joining us, the Petzo Center, Petzo Financial. So when you take a look at China devaluing its currency, all of a sudden that lowers the price of Chinese goods. It makes American goods even more expensive. Does that neutralize the tariff talk from the Trump administration?
No, it does not, because you're still talking about it's marginal as to how much they can knock it down. It is very dangerous inflationary-wise within their country. They could topple their own economy if they're not careful. So, again, you can't just automatically pull levers here and there and not have it pushed back somewhere else. So, Kevin, I don't think they are weakening, and they are materially weakening their economy. It's not as good as it was, and it's tough to get these corporations back. I believe every company that leaves China, and they are leaving by the dozens, and moving to Vietnam and other places to keep their supply chain, they're not coming back. Why would you ever come back? And they're not. And this is permanent damage to their overall economy. And the longer it goes on, more companies leave, the more long-term damage they have.
Speaking of long-term damage, let's take a look at Walmart in light of what happened with the El Paso shooting. Obviously, we take a look and our thoughts and especially our prayers go to those victims. But as a major corporation, how does Walmart deal with this issue?
I don't know that they can. I don't know that anybody's asking them to do anything. But, symbolically, I don't know if you put a guard by the front door, somebody who's a little bit more. What did they say? They had 3,000 people in that Walmart? That's
Walmart.
That's a small city. I can't believe there's that many people in there. But if there is, I would guess they would beef up security, even if it is only for a show. I would think you would have people with trained weapon use at the door so that you have a deterrent to anybody coming in and thinking that was a good copycat idea.
Dave Petzo joining us, Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. And then we have the issue involving the gun industry, where now the president has called for red flag laws. People are saying we need to bring back the assault weapons ban. We need to ban this, ban that. But if you're in the firearm industry, if you're someone that owns a gun shop or a shooting range or what have you, what goes on in your mind, do you think?
Probably, it's as with Obama, sales will go up for a while because people are afraid that their guns are going to be taken away. So I'm guessing that prices of ammunition and weapons are up, particularly if you're talking about automatics and semi-automatics. So I'm guessing that they're flying off the shelves. That's what's happening now, and there won't be much time to react to it. Again, if these shootings continue, we're going to hear more and more cries of it, and people are going to continue to buy and more weapons. There's so many weapons out there now. I think we're missing it. I think the president's on it. The real problem is society. It's not the gun itself. And Kevin, you know, this radio station even existed before you, believe it or not. And one of the things that John DeWayne used to talk about was the fact that you're going to school with a shotgun in the back of your pickup truck. All the kids did, and the cars weren't even locked. The trucks weren't even locked. So they could hunt on the way home. Nobody ever shot anybody. There were weapons everywhere. Nobody even threatened anybody. And again, there were weapons everywhere. Something's wrong. Something's broken. It's not the weapon itself, society itself. And they can pass all the laws you want, but people who are going to do things, whether it's blow up a truck outside of a Walmart, come through and hack them up with a machete, walk in with a bomb and start throwing grenades around or whatever, you make it home a pipe bomb. This is all going to continue if we have psychopathic people who are just plain old evil, and we can't stop them because we decide that we need to have certain laws, and laws won't stop that. Only stopping the root cause can stop that.
More coming up with Dave Petzo. Catch him on Money Matters 8 to 10 Saturday mornings. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Dave Petzo joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. We're going to go to Two Fly Bry, and then we're going to hear what he has to say. And Two Fly Bry, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Petzo, I got to correct you. These guys are not psychopaths, and here's why. They're only doing what they have been shown in society that is acceptable. That is that life has no value, and that was began when Roe v. Wade came around. If we can take out a life before it's even got its first breath, all we're teaching those that are 45 years and younger, life has no value. They're only doing specifically what society has, what they have been allowed to be taught, that don't worry, it's just flesh. It's just a mob, a blob or something like that. That is truly the basis of what's going on here. You take Christ out of the town, take Christ out of the town center. Yes, I'm getting religious on you here. But you take morals out. Let's just go that route. And like you said, I used to go to Payette. I would go out and get a pheasant, and I go back in. My biology teacher's on, did you get anything for us to do any dissection on? I go, sure, yeah, let me go get it. Yeah, I mean, and in my locker was my broken down shotgun with my hunting vest, with my ammo, with my bird. And I was back in the day. But yeah, what's happened is we have an absence of morals. Life has no value is what is going on. The country, the society is the psychopath side of it. This is just an outcome of that.
All right, Two Fly Bry, Dave Petzo, your response.
Well, it's hard to disagree. I do feel like there's been a complete breakdown in society, and I believe that of course, the mental breakdown is something we actually talked about this a little bit at the office. It doesn't make us right, but one of the things that you think about is how do you possibly fathom what's going on in somebody's head? Why do people act in any particular way in society? Why are we dealing with so many issues of people being unhappy in a world that has had more abundance than ever in all of history, in the richest nation in the world? It's a question that I ask all the time.
Well,
why is that going on?
You've got millennials aged 23 to 38. According to a new poll, 22% of them describe themselves as having no friends. 30% describe themselves as lonely.
Yeah.
They meet people online. They communicate via online, but they have no interaction with people.
Yeah, and it is. Kevin, that's a great set of numbers to try to understand. But trying to understand somebody's broken down mind with normal common sense, we can deal with these things. We can deal with the idea that abortion is wrong, that death is wrong, and that society is messed up. We can deal with that and not feel like I have to go take a gun out and start shooting people. But psychologically whacked people are not capable of dealing with that. They see this as a reason for them to go celebrate, and kill people is part of that celebration. So again, it's still mental illness either way.
Let's get to some other news. We've got the cover of Bloomberg Business Week this week with helmets from not from wars, but helmets looking at every streaming service: Netflix, Disney, Amazon, Hulu, HBO, and Apple. The title, it's Showtime. Do you think one day we're going to be able to subscribe to a streaming bundle, just like we have a bundle, like a cord that people are cutting with cable? I mean, everybody's getting into the streaming business.
Without a doubt, Kevin. But there'll be the choices we make. And you and I have talked about this before. It's great, but putting a helmet on, don't we watch enough crap on TV? I mean, really, in reality TV or Unreal TV, however you want to call it. It's really something to me that we have so much out there, and wondering why there's so many problems in society when all we do is sit and watch the life lived out in front of us. That just seems, it seems pretty obvious to me that we watch so much TV and now walking around with a helmet. That seems pretty, dialing in whatever you want with multiple streaming services. It is good for the consumer. Costs are going to come down. Choices are going up. That's all good in the end for the consumer.
But if you're in the traditional business, like DirecTV, that AT&T just purchased, like Sprint or whatever, not Sprint, Spirit Light, whatever the new Cable One company is.
Yep.
How do you combat that?
You don't. You're dying. You are a horse and buggy as you watch the automobile go by. Well, it's certainly in the numbers.
You say that about this business.
Well, it has definitely diminished, but I love what people like you, the great people, the great voices out there, have resurrected it.
Right. Yeah, right.
You have.
Hold on. Here we are. Hold on. When I always look at, and maybe this works for you, when I always look at people, and in the old days I go, well, they're wrong and I'm right. And then I look at their resume. And then I go, well, I'm looking at Dave Petzo's resume. Then I'm looking at Kevin Miller's resume. And if I'm objective, I'm going with Dave Petzo's resume when we're talking about issues. So is it the definition of insanity that we continue on, whether it's here or whether it's somewhere else?
Kevin, I think that I'm going to put it this way because I'm logically, and I'm going to give you the logic behind it. We're both right. This industry has taken an enormous hit, and with satellite, with all the choices, with podcasts,
sure,
all those choices that people have. Every single source of media, if you will, the distribution of media, is taking a hit and dying. So the question is, how many of these places, if you drive through Weezer, you see remember that old radio station that's right there on that road? Mm-hmm. Well, it's gone. And we're seeing that, where they're disappearing and literally end up with no value. But where you find high quality, and again, this sounds like I'm pandering to you, but you find high quality, engaging programming, people are still listening.
Well,
but are they listening to 5 different stations? No, they're listening to one.
And that's a great point. But, here's another one, whether we're talking about streaming companies, and I don't want to get too close to home, but when you talk of the days of John and Chris and others, specifically with this business, and I think perhaps eventually it might go back to that, is when you had the local owner.
Yes.
And that was their priority.
And it was their passion.
Right.
Was their station, yeah.
Right. I can remember the guy who gave Sean Hannity his break. I was there 5 years after that, and he was the local guy, and he knew everything that was going on. And my gosh, you better be there 5 minutes early or else. and really, let's hold that thought for a minute. Let's get you to work safely and on time. KIDO Talk Radio, traffic and weather together. Good morning, Dave. And back with Dave Petzo. So you're a big fan of the major corporations.
No, I'm not, but that's where we invest, yes.
Well, okay,
yes.
But which is better? Local ownership that maybe never scales.
Yep.
Or everybody that scales and then you have cookie cutter things.
Yeah. Both. Both are. Yeah, and in different reasons, okay? And again, I know it sounds like I'm being a politician here, but I'll tell you why. If you end up with the great stars of the industry.
I knew that. I knew he was going there. I thought you were going to say the great corporations of America. That's usually what you say. That's what you call them.
Well, they are. And great corporations of the world, they just happen to be American, most of them.
Sure.
But anyway, but what I'm saying here in this case is you wind up with a Rush Limbaugh that changes the entire world. If he was only local, Kevin, then we would not have heard him here, and it would not have changed talk radio. It would all be different. would just be one little personality to another. Now, locally, that plays well, and I like that.
Right.
Like you're a local guy involved in the Treasure Valley here. It's a big deal to be living here. Now, so it gets better talent on a global basis because you get to keep that talent because you can pay them $20 million a year, and they might be off doing something else. Or they're only going to be in an L.A. or New York instead of all over the country. So that part of it, I like that delivery. But the local, it's always run better. It's more intense. It's more creative. You come up with new ideas because, by golly, it's my baby and I can do with it what I want. And so you get all those local ideas. Local always has advantages to be responsive to what's going on locally, to be creative and creating more. We have then 1,000 different experiments instead of one. And so all of those things make for better in the long run, but we have to have some combination in order to defer costs. And the same thing goes in research and development, Kevin. If we're talking about billion-dollar drugs, you've got to have big companies doing that. Little ones can't.
Dave Petzo, the Petzo Center, Petzo Financial, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hey, Maggie's back. Are you excited about that?
Thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled.
Not the same
It's
without
time.
Maggie.
No, it's not. I like Doug, too, though. Come on.
Well, Doug took yesterday off. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. Rolling right along on the right side. Kevin Miller in the morning. Coming up, Big Max will join us. Before that, to London we go. Simon Owen, Fox News Radio on KIDO Talk Radio. Simon, good morning.
Hi, Kevin. Morning.
Good to have you with us. So let's take a look at the latest concerning security in the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, that bad neighborhood. Your thoughts?
Well, this is something that's been in the works for several weeks now. The U.S. has been trying to recruit allies to join a maritime security mission, some kind of operation to protect ships as they sail through the Strait of Hormuz near the Persian Gulf. It's a very strategically important stretch of water. It's also very narrow, and it's an area where there have been a series of security incidents in recent weeks. And what's happened now is that Britain has said it is going to join the US in this operation, and I suspect the Brits are hoping that other countries are going to follow. Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, said in recent days that something like 60 countries have been asked to join this operation, but the UK is the only one so far to have said yes. So a very delicate stretch of water. This is where Iran shot down a U.S. drone a few weeks ago. It's where the U.S. said it downed an Iranian drone after that. It's where Iran captured an oil tanker in recent weeks sailing under a British flag. And so there have been a series of flare-ups in this region. And the Ministry of Defense here in London is saying that Britain is now joining what it calls a U.S.-led international maritime security mission. The Pentagon has welcomed this, but at the moment it remains a coalition of two.
Well, that's not a big coalition, is it?
No, it's not. And the key allies here in Europe that were approached about this were Britain, France, and Germany. So we've got a yes from the British now. The French have been silent, notably silent, declining to say which way they're going to go on this. And the Germans have said no. The reason that there's this split here is that Britain, France, and Germany are the key players trying to keep the Iran nuclear deal alive. They are still in this agreement that President Trump pulled the U.S. out of a year ago, that move that has sparked all the tensions we've seen in recent months. The European partners are trying to keep that deal alive. Now, Britain says it can have it both ways. It can work with the U.S. on this security mission and continue efforts to keep the Iran nuclear deal alive. But the Germans feel that it's not possible to be associated with a U.S. military operation while also attempting to work on the diplomatic side and the economic side of things. So you have this unusual situation where, in Syria, a close American ally in Germany is saying that it doesn't want to be associated with a U.S. military operation regarding Iran because it believes the Trump administration is just hammering the Iranians too hard at the moment.
Anybody, I'm sure they are, working on the charm offensive to expand the coalition from a whopping 2?
Well, I mean, Look, the Defense Secretary, Mark Esper, the new Defense Sec, is in Asia at the moment. Mike Pompeo, I think, has been in Australia in recent days. I suspect the Australians have had some requests to do this. They'll be pressing friendly Gulf allies like the UAE and Oman maybe to get involved and chip into this. But ultimately, you got to look to the Europeans to find some durable military allies who are likely to sign up and work alongside the United States of this sort of thing. That's why it's perhaps not a surprise that the UK is the first country to get involved in this. It's one of the complaints, I think, of the Trump administration is that this is a part of the world where the US is finding that it's having to do a lot of the protection. And why is that the case? So, look, we wait and see. But this charm offensive, as you put it, has been going on for a few weeks now. And Mike Pompeo says 60 invitations have gone out, and I suppose they're hoping that more will come back with affirmatives. But to see the German foreign minister standing up yesterday, and he just said, "We want a European mission," that was quite a striking comment.
Simon Owen, we always appreciate you. Thank you for joining us from London, sir.
Thanks, Kevin.
Max in Garden City, good morning. Thanks for your patience. Our Chinese expert on KIDO Talk Radio.
I want to update a little bit on what Mr. Petzo was talking about. But first, I get to play word Nazi. The Chinese currency is called the yuan, not the won. Won is Korean. I hear a lot of talking heads. I heard them on Fox News calling it the won. And China does not trade in Korean currency. And as far as Chinese currency, you notice it took a little drop recently, and it's going to drop again because China is now restructuring all of their state-owned enterprises. The economy is shaky. Factories are leaving by the dozen. Other factories are shuttering their doors because they can't find labor. The Chinese immigration policy is so counter to anybody coming into work or to live that they can't find workers. They've aborted 3 generations of workers, and it's catching up to them.
What do you make of the trade war and the Chinese cutting off the farmers? No more ag from Idaho or America. From the Chinese won't buy it.
Well, and the fact is, for the last several months, the Chinese have been courting sources in Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, all these countries, and in Russia. And they've been courting these people to purchase to make up for the loss of American produce. For a while, that's going to work. But it's not even recent. State-owned enterprise employees across the board have taken a 45% wage cut. Now, that's huge when they're already making a subsistence wage. When I was still in China, they did that to the steel and iron industry. Now they're doing it to all of the others. China's going to find that they're going to maintain a stable price structure on the retail level as far as groceries, because in addition to finding other sources, they're pumping billions of U.S. dollars out of the Treasury into the economy to keep it afloat. They want the people happy when they invade Hong Kong, and that is right around the corner. I know for a fact that the 201 Army unit has positioned itself ready for a land offensive. China's not playing with Hong Kong anymore, and that's not going to help their economy. That's why you'll probably see it slide to 8, probably as low as 8.5 to the dollar. Right now it's at 7. If you're a currency trader, that's what you look at.
Well, Max,
I'm not.
Well, neither am I. Max, thank you for the call.
You're welcome, my friend. You take care.
All right, bye-bye. Max in Garden City. Here's another interesting story. People are pressuring retailers to get rid of gun sales. Well, Walmart has said they have no plans to change their gun sale policy following mass shootings. By the way, I don't think that you can buy expanded magazines or anything else at a Walmart or now, Dick's Sporting Goods. We're going to stop the gun violence and not sell guns. Okay, that leaves it up for other people. Despite pressure from anti-gun groups following the weekend's mass shootings in El Paso, Walmart officials say they have no plans to stop selling firearms and ammo. Walmart spokesperson Randy Hargrove says the company recently raised the age to buy guns from 18 to 21. Why don't we raise the age of buying guns to 35, right? And the company maintains a strict background check towards its purchasers. Quote, our focus has always been on being responsible, a responsible seller of firearms, right? We go beyond federal law requiring all customers to pass a background check before purchasing any firearm. Instead of worrying about policy, the spokesperson says the company is focused on supporting our associates, customers, and the entire El Paso community in the wake of the tragedy, which has left so far 22 people dead. Now, the question to you, if you were the CEO of Walmart, what would you do? And why does the United States of America have so many more mass shootings than other countries? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And as we've documented throughout the day, you heard it here first on KIDO Talk Radio, where the president's saying it's time to take a look at mental illness. It's time to take a look at being proactive. It's time to do this.
Mental illness and hatred pulls the trigger, not the gun. We must make sure that those judged to pose a grave risk to public safety do not have access to firearms, and that if they do, those firearms can be taken through rapid due process.
Now, again, and it's funny, you might have read about this. The New York Times had a headline, a digital headline, where it said Trump calls for unity, right? Trump calls for unity. The liberals were so incensed by it, they threatened to cancel their subscriptions to the New York Times. So the nation's paper, the old gray lady, did they stand up to the libs? Did they stand up to the people? No. They changed the headline, saying Trump didn't go far enough. So as we continue to make sense of this nonsense, is it white supremacy that's the issue? Is it the crazy kids that are lonely that is the issue? Is it the access to guns that is the issue? Let's talk about it next. Kevin Miller on your home for Fox News, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Joining us now, Ron Grant, the original Safer Money Specialist, our great friend. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, guys. How are we doing today?
Good to have you with us here. Boy, what a day yesterday. The market was down 767 points. You take a look at that. Ron, did any of your clients lose money?
Nope, we didn't lose a dime. Market goes up, we get to go up. Market drops, we stay level. So I did get some emails last night and letting me know that that's why they're with me, so they can sleep at night knowing that they don't have to worry about that roller coaster ride of Wall Street.
Boy, it is a roller coaster ride, and you take a look at what it means to be safe. And Ron, people are skeptics here. What's your history in this? I mean, when we're talking about keeping people's money safe, how long have you been doing it?
Well, I've been doing it since 2007, and that's where my money is. I can put my money anywhere, and I want to sleep at night. And I'm too old to lose my money, too old to start over and work again. So safe for them, call it pillow money, if you will. Lay down, put your head down, and don't worry about it.
Boy, that is nice. If people want to get a hold of you for a good time, well, you have a good time because your money's safe. But to talk about this, and you love listening and going back and forth with people, answering their questions, how can they get a hold of you, sir?
Well, they can call me at 208-660-1372. Make sure they tune into the show every Saturday from 2 to 3. This week we're going to be talking about the biggest risk to your retirement. So make sure you get your pen, your paper. And we're going to do some education. Again, education is important. Knowledge is power. And make sure you tune in on Saturday.
Well, and not only that, but we got the car shows to talk about as well.
We do. We're going to tell you where we're going to be next Saturday on the 17th. We're going to be at the Hot August Cruise and Drag at Meridian Speedway, and it's going to be nice. They've got a cruise parade, street drags, a smoke and go. Families welcome. It's going to be great. Doors open at 5:45. So hopefully we'll see you out there. It's going to be a fun time.
Ron Grant, one more time, your website?
SaferMoneySpecialist.com.
Well, we'll see you Saturday. Thank you, sir.
All right, buddy. Have a great day.
All right. We appreciate it. 580-5436. 580-KIDO. So we've got everybody blaming people. This is, and we have these people called newsbusters on our program. This is what they put together. Jake Tapper of CNN. We're not talking about the killers. We're not talking about the bad people. We're not talking about mental illness. Here's who the Democrats are blaming.
During one of the debates, your 2020 opponent, Governor Jay Inslee of Washington, said that President Trump is a, quote, white nationalist. That was a fairly stark accusation. Do you agree with that? Do you think President Trump is a white nationalist? Some of the Democrats running for president not only are faulting the president for his rhetoric, but they're saying that rhetoric, in their view, you heard Congressman Beto O'Rourke maybe, leads to this, causes violence. Do you agree, or does that go too far? Former Congressman from El Paso, Beto O'Rourke, told me earlier this show that in his view, the president's anti-immigrant rhetoric is making things worse and creating an atmosphere of violence. Do you agree? Do you have any concerns about the things the president says about immigrants?
Jake, I'm not qualified to comment on that. I'm not a talking head. I'm focusing on the El Pasoans and the 20 deaths and their families.
Now, the screed, the document that the law enforcement is currently looking into about whether or not this terrorist, this white supremacist in El Paso wrote it, he uses the language that we've heard from the president in terms of calling migrants coming into this country an invasion. It's in the second sentence of this manifesto or screed, which is obviously something that President Trump has said. But the shooter also said that he thought this way and had these beliefs before President Trump, and that President Trump is not responsible. I don't know how you make sense of any of this, but what did you think when you saw that? Your campaign rival and fellow Texan, former Congressman Beto O'Rourke, said, quote, President Trump's racism does not just offend our sensibilities, it fundamentally changes the character of this country, and it leads to violence. You haven't gone that far this morning. Do you think that Congressman O'Rourke is saying something that's unfair? Do you see any sort of link between the comments the president makes and this kind of violence? What do you think?
Well, I believe that President Trump is making it worse.
There we have it. So the president has a point when he's talking about the news media. Instead of looking at real-life solutions like we do here in the Treasure Valley, like you do in your own life when it comes to solving problems, right? If we would only listen to the advice our parents gave us so many years ago, it's very simple. Sometimes there's shades of gray, but more often than not, it's either right or wrong. We rationalize, right? We have people going after folks. By the way, here you have another breaking news story. A grandmother stopping a 19-year-old Texas man from carrying out a planned mass shooting. It wasn't red flag laws. It wasn't the mental health professionals. It was a member of this individual's family, another person trying to have a mass shooting. Where are they getting these ideas from? The video games? The fact that they're lonely? The fact of mental illness permeating things? We'll talk about it next. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave. Here's some good news. 19-year-old William Patrick Williams of Lubbock, Texas, was arrested last month after telling his grandmother he planned to shoot up a hotel and commit suicide by a cop. The grandmother persuaded Williams to go to the hospital. Good idea. Where he was arrested. Police found an AK-47 rifle, ammunition, and other items in a hotel room he had rented. U.S. Attorney Neely Cox praised Williams' grandmother for coming forward, calling it a tragedy averted. Maybe we need more grandmothers caring in our community. We care about you. Fox News next. Your home for Fox News on the radio. KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning.